Welcome, everybody. This is episode 7 of the podcast. Thank you for joining the show. I'm your host, Fu, and I have now updated the name of the podcast from the Richard Sage podcast to the Fu podcast. So Fu is my real name. It's my birth name. It's my Vietnamese name. Richard is an English version of my name that I used online for many years to protect my identity, to protect myself on the internet, especially while I was still putting myself out there in the early stages of my content creation career. And I've hit a point now where I feel more comfortable to be more of myself in the world on the internet, where you're on display to the infinite amount of people that are out there, and you never know who's out there. So one of the reasons why I did go with Richard Sage originally, 2 reasons. Number 1, systemic racism. Yes, I'm going to be talking about some potentially triggering topics. I'm a person of color. I'm Vietnamese, and I learned very early on in my life that using a more Anglo-Saxon white-sounding name, you get treated better on the internet. It's just the truth. Whereas, like, if I was using my original name, my real name on the internet, people would be like, "Oh, Fu, oh, it sounds like poo," and you ate a shoe and you eat glue. Like, just the sheer amount of bullying I've experienced throughout my life, I've had to learn to protect myself very, very early. But you know what? I just turned 32 recently. I turned 32 on September 19th. And I've hit a point in my life now where I'm more comfortable in my own skin. I'm building more self-esteem and security within myself as a person. And now I'm ready to put more of the real me out onto the internet. So people can like me, they can hate me, but guess what? You're going to get me. So I thought I'd put that out there just to clarify if you're wondering why the name of the podcast has changed. This is also why, if you look at the very first episode, I was also very clear that I may change the name. But I'm very excited to put this out here. So let's get right into it. Today's episode is the power of words. Words. So the way we, hopefully most of us can communicate, if you have a voice box, if you have vocal cords, if you've had the opportunity to learn to speak, the opportunity to learn to read and write. Usually in the modern world, hopefully we can communicate through words. But I want to talk specifically about how words impact ourselves and they can impact other people. So this is something that I've had to learn really hard for the past 20 years, and I'm notorious for this. The words that we say to ourselves and the words that we say to other people can do 2 things, in my opinion. Words can either breathe life into people or ourselves, or words can inject venom into people or ourselves. So I'll just give you some very easy examples. Positive self-talk or negative self-talk. Put it this way, if you talk negatively to yourself in your own mind, you're going to breathe, you're going to inject venom. Like, I use a very visceral example because I've experienced this. When I was bullied by a lot of people, I got told I was fat, ugly, you're a loser, nobody likes you, you're stupid, you've got no talent, like you're going to be nothing in this world. Like, I don't know if you know this, but millennials, and especially the generation before that and the generation before that, like the Gen X generation, the baby boomers, like the Victorian era, like there was a lot of bullying happening back then, and still to this day it happens. Now, for me, what happened was I grew up as a very happy kid. I went to a Catholic primary school. I was surrounded by a lot of Christians. I was surrounded by a lot of emotionally healthy people for the majority of my early childhood. And then when I went to public school, I went to a school where my very first day, I got told to F off and go back to my own country. Like, it was such a traumatizing experience. Like, a young, happy kid like myself who's never truly experienced, like, trauma, it was such a traumatic experience in year 7 in high school. I got told very fast that I don't belong here. Like, the amount of venom that was injected into me, to this day, I'm still recovering from. So the thing I want to emphasize in this episode, and I'm going to try to cut the episodes a bit shorter so it's a bit more digestible for you to listen to, and we can expand on this later on, is that the words that you say to people, for some people, they're going to remember that forever. It could be something positive you say or something negative you say. And it could be the smallest thing. Like, some people, especially like ADHD type people like myself, we will hyper focus on a single statement made on us for hours and hours and hours. And what happened for me from age 13 to 18, I received so much negativity injected into me that till now, I'm still mentally recovering from the hurtful words that I received from people. So the point I want to put out there is that, number one, don't be mean, okay? Like, if you don't have to be, like, I understand there's room for disagreements, there's room for, constructive criticism, but understand that some people will not take your words the way you think they will. Like, for example, one of the things that really hurt me growing up as a kid was being told that I'm lazy. You're lazy. You're lazy. You don't do anything. You're lazy. You know what happens when a young kid hears that over and over and over again? They start believing they're lazy. They will start being that way because that was injected into them. Whereas the opposite can also happen as well. If you put praise into people, like you genuinely praise someone for doing something good, you can positively reinforce that into people. So for example, I wish more people told me, you know what? I really like your work ethic. I love what you do. Keep going. Keep doing that. But for the majority of my life, I rarely received any praise for a lot of the things I was doing. Hence, I have such a deep need for validation. Like, and I know this, like I'm very self-aware about myself, but I've been learning to give that validation to myself. So the other thing I want to say is that if on one spectrum, negative words can inject venom into people, then positive words can breathe life into people. Like the people in your life, I'm telling you now, just that one person in your life, if you see them doing something good, you can just give them that honest compliment and you can make such a powerful impact on that person. Like you can make their day. Like sometimes like I'll be ordering a coffee and like I'll just let that person working know like, hey, I really like the way you made the coffee. It tasted amazing. Now, a lot of people, like if they're working in hospitality, they'll be like getting a lot of criticism like, oh, you didn't put the milk the way I wanted, or you put too much sugar. I don't like this. And like that hurts, So the words we use are very, very powerful. It can impact the people in front of us. It can impact ourselves. So the next thing I want to say is, I know this is not easy, especially like if you're the type to be very self-critical like I am. Like I am constantly criticizing myself inside. Like you may not see, if you've ever met me in person, you might see my happy smile. You might see like all the positive energy I put out because I put a lot of effort to do that. But inside, I am fighting a war non-stop from morning till night. And I'm sure you might be as well. So here's a tip that I can give you. If you are struggling with negative self-talk, I want you to picture this. Picture a situation where one of your best friends is asking you for advice. Picture a situation where they're like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me? How often have you found yourself being in such a great position to help that person? You know exactly what to say, you know how to listen to them, you know how to show empathy and compassion, you know how to show constructive criticism, you know how to show them that you're there for them. But what if we flip the script? Why don't you start doing that for yourself? Make yourself your own best friend. This is not easy if you're the type who's constantly trying to take care of other people. But until you take care of yourself, you're always going to be fighting that inner war. And that war will never end. So it begins with this. Here's my suggestion to you, my invitation for you today. If you're struggling with negative self-talk, let's begin a healthy conversation with yourself. Give yourself a compliment. Pat yourself on the back. It's an Aussie saying, pat yourself on the back. It's true. If you did something well today, don't minuscule it. Like, don't lower it. It's a good thing. You got out of bed. Yeah, that's the bare minimum. Yeah, no, it's not the bare minimum. If you have trouble getting out of bed and you got out of bed, that's a good thing. That's a great thing. You should be proud of yourself. So then that's what I want to say. I want you to start treating yourself like your own best friend. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen right away. Like, take it from me. I've been trying to do this my whole life and I'm only just starting to get a grip of it. Is that the words that we use not just impact other people. They don't just breathe life into other people or just inject venom into people. It can also breathe life into yourself. So every day, remind yourself of something that you did well. It could be the smallest thing, like, you know what? I actually took the cup that's been sitting on my floor, rolling around, and I brought it to the kitchen to wash. Did you wash the cup yet? Probably not, but guess what? You took a step forward. Every step forward that you take matters. And that's the key. That is the key. If you're going through a hard time right now, you're struggling with something very powerful, and it feels like it's impossible, you'll be shocked at how empowering it is to take one positive, healthy step, but even more so to start breathing life into yourself. You can only wait so long for other people to do it for you, but part of independence and part of taking care of yourself is to take that positive step forward and begin breathing life back into you. Because what happens is when you evolve and you become stronger, happier, and healthier, you're now better for other people too. So thank you for listening to the podcast, guys. I'm trying to cut down the duration time to see how many downloads it gets. If you like the podcast, if you're listening on YouTube, please drop a like and comment and subscribe. Share it with somebody you like. If you're listening on Spotify or any of the podcast platforms, please leave a positive review. It helps the podcast spread and go to more people in the world. And we're back to weekly podcast uploads. I did have some things happen in my life in the last couple of weeks that I had to take some time off, but we're back. Welcome to the Food Podcast. Thank you for the incredible support, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a lovely day. Have a lovely week. Take it one step at a time, and don't forget to breathe some life into yourself. Don't forget to breathe some life into other people, and let's stop injecting venom into ourselves, and we need to put a security wall between the venom coming to us. All right. Have a good day, guys. Be kind to yourself. Treat yourself like your own best friend, and I'll see you next time. Take care.